Thank you, Valdis. Thank you. I don't have to tell that myself now. Welcome, guys. How's your day so far? Had fun on the workshops? You are quite a boring crowd. Come on. Anyway, I'm going to talk about mobile in general. Responsive is just one part of that. And I've been doing mobile since 2005. Remember those days? Like no Facebook, no iPhones. And apparently it's 2015, and we are still talking about mobile. It's still a hot topic. Everyone is interested in that, and I think that was one of the feedback from the last year's conference. People wanted to know more about responsive and hear more about responsive, and that's why I'm talking about it right now. And for the last 3 to 5 years, I've been hearing that mobile is the future, everything should be mobile, mobile first, all that kind of bullshit. Excuse my French. And you would think that people by now should be more or less comfortable with the whole idea of mobile, talking on the phone and doing some stuff and developing for it. But still we discuss it, still we sing the same old song, only remixed a little bit. And a few years ago it was fashionable to pit mobile versus desktop. User experience designers analyzed patterns in usage for mobile, how to proceed with it, and what are the differences, what people like on mobile, what they don't like on mobile, or what are the challenges there, especially technological ones. Those were quite limiting. And well, it made sense. It made sense, really. We built different applications for desktop, for mobile, and people got really tailored experience on the go, on small screens. But then more pragmatic people caught up with the whole mobile thing. I mean, that's why the whole responsive kind of trend was born. Responsive web design, by the way, you probably know about responsive web design. You couldn't have heard about it, right? It's okay to say yes. Okay, so responsive web design is a great idea. And I'll expand it a little bit, don't worry, if you don't know about it. But what I want to talk about it is how it kind of turned into this silver bullet for everything mobile. Suddenly people who have no idea about user experience got this universal rule to operate. Responsive. We should be responsive. Everything should be responsive. And these days you cannot escape responsive. I mean, in 2012, it was number 2. Then in 2013, Mashable called it the year of responsive web design. And basically Forbes in 2013 urged you to use responsive, and you prioritize responsive design, and you cannot win any kind of battles in the e-commerce unless you go responsive. And it made sense, right? Responsive kind of got us out of the woods finally. Finally, there was a solution for the shed load of problems that we had at the dawn of all things mobile. I mean, there's no need to create multiple websites, apps for different devices anymore. If designed correctly, it solves the problem of different screen sizes. If designed correctly, users are fed the right content in the right way on the go. All good, right? Unfortunately, as I said, the problem that right now responsive turned into this default approach anyone must take when considering mobile. Like with many other things, people who have actually no idea about what design is or user experience design, they started considering themselves as experts. Before it was easier. People came to you and said, hey, we kind of know, we kind of need to do something mobile. We just don't really know or sure what to do about it. And help us to do it right. And you were able to help them. You were able to build the right user experience on the mobile for their customers. These days it's different. They come to you and say, hey, wait, hey, we need mobile presence first, and we don't have much money for that. We don't want to spend money. And what we can do, I've read this online, and my friends told me we can build this responsive something thingy, and we just take our website, we make it responsive, and we are more on mobile, right? No, I don't need anything else from you. Just responsive. Just make it work. Okay, good. Let's go. And of course, you understand that this is an approach that leads to failure. And this is similar to other things. by the way, my designers helped me with these images here, so cats are always good. Responsive is now, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, by the way, is turning into this another default kind of thing, like things in the past. Like, for example, less clicks is better. Generations and generations of designers were grown with this idea that less clicks is better. It's ages since that was true. I mean, for most cases, but still people operate with this. People who read a book or two 5 years ago, they come to you and say, okay, less clicks is better. We need less clicks. We need to put everything on one screen. Yeah, everything on one screen. Everything should fit one screen. Put everything above the fold. It's not a newspaper anymore, right? Why do we need to put everything above the fold? It's not that hard to scroll. And technology also moves forward blazingly, with blazing speed. And we still, less clicks is better, and everything above the fold on one screen. And the same happens with responsive now. I mean, unless you do responsive, you're not winning. So designers were given this great idea of responsive design. And what have we done with it? Large buttons, linear layout, that's it. We have this kind of fundamental mindset of focusing on tips and tricks, on solutions, on no time to think, just bullet points to implement. Everyone is so lazy. Everyone wants to have just one universal solution that can be applied over and over again. And we found the solution in responsive, right? So if you go mobile, oh, responsive, you're done. There's no way to think about it. Another issue I have with responsive web design is that it's kind of born out of and driven by technology. I will explain a bit later why I say that. And again, this is my opinion. You can throw tomatoes at me later if you love responsive. I love responsive, by the way. Imagine if, for example, when we invented plastic, we decided now we need to do everything out of plastic, like everything. Knives out of plastic, like cars out of plastic, everything. I mean, plastic is great, it's versatile. It works for many, many, many things, but not for everything. So the same kind of thing with responsive. It's almost for everything, but not for everything. And with the technology in mind, I mean, God bless CSS3 and media queries, right? That's the technology that served you that. And as I said, it's growing from that kind of technology aspect. And this is the excerpt from the very first article that was published that coined the phrase responsive web design. It happened in May 25th, 2010 now, 5 years ago. And I've highlighted some things there, but you can see that we can design for an optimal viewing experience, but embed standards-based technologies to make our designs adaptive to the media. I mean, this is what started the whole responsive web design. Why responsive? I mean, in the same article, Ethan Marcotte compared web design, responsive web design, to so-called responsive architecture trend. And this is what, in the same article, he says about responsive architecture. And this is actually really great. I love this kind of explanation. And I usually hate slides with text, but I think we need to understand this, that responsive architecture that was compared to responsive web design is so much more. It's motion sensors can be paired with climate control systems, so just room temperature and ambient lighting and fields of people, etc., etc. So you can read this. I won't read it. It's not about desktop or mobile anymore. If that's the question you ask, desktop or mobile, whoever wins, users lose. That's the lost battle right there. You don't think in those terms anymore. People have so many screens, so many different types of screens. TV now, game consoles, I don't know, tablets 1, tablet 2, desktop 1, desktop 2. We move from one screen to another during the day. And if you're still thinking just in terms of two distinct platforms, desktop large screen and mobile small screen, well, you kind of lived 5 years ago now. You have to move on now. It's not like that anymore. And also, if you think that you can take whatever you have and make it responsive, well, again, I see people that they have a website and we want to make it responsive. let's make it responsive, and we will solve this whole mobile thing, right? Well, every proponent of responsive web design will tell you that you need to start from ground up. You start from ground up, you design it from ground up, and then you kind of grow this whole responsive in the right way. I mean, if you go back to the architecture comparison, I mean, that's a perfect example, but think about it. If you have a building and you want to build something on top of it or repurpose it in a really weird way, sometimes it works, sometimes, but rarely, in my opinion. But yeah, I know what you're thinking. I mean, give us already some advices, some examples, and some concrete steps to reproduce. Okay, if you want to know about responsive, here's the main responsive mantra. This is the whole responsive in one sentence. The layout changes based on the size and capabilities of the device. You just learn this, understand this, feel this, and you're halfway there, in my opinion. And of course, there are more to it. I mean, usually it's you go from multiple columns to single column, depending on the screen size. You use usually bigger tappable elements on touch screens, which are smaller. And you also check for screen size, not device type. So if you just check for example, if it's mobile, then iPad is mobile. And sometimes I've seen really bad responsive examples working on iPad, and you see, okay, there's so much more screen. Why I'm using this iPhone version of it? But I'm actually not going to talk to you about exact steps on how to do responsive. I mean, there are so many guides now online. I mean, here are some links that you can follow. Just go to those links and read it and learn it. And there are so many examples. And the last one, for example, media queries, it's amazing. I mean, you can see all the things that people are doing, and you just steal it. Come on, it's fine. I mean, good artists steal, right? I'm kidding, but you just use it for inspiration. This is how it's called in designer world. Anyway, it's all fine and dandy, but whenever I hear responsive web design, I always have this question in my mind: responsive to what? And people always have the same question. Well, it's the same answer. Well, to responsive to screen size. Sometimes they add capabilities to the device. Who really cares about that? I mean, seriously, who do you care more about, user or his device? What is the goal? Be responsive, but why? Because everyone else is doing that? Because you read it in Forbes, you read it somewhere else, you want to be responsive because of that? Or you want to serve users' needs? If it's the latter, you need to think about this outside of this responsive box you put yourself in. I mean, people have goddamn supercomputers in their hands now. And you give them large buttons and linear layouts. That's it. People, in my opinion, in most cases, people will be fine off with just a normal website on their phone. Screen sizes are getting ridiculously large these days. I mean, it's fine to use a normal website. I mean, it's not the goal itself to be responsive. It's to serve user better. And from what I see, responsive web design serves content provider better than the user, because content provider can kind of manage the same content within one website and also claim to be mobile friendly, to be within this whole paradigm of mobility. There's an important triangle that we need to deal with when we design pretty much anything. User experience for our website or app, which is user, context, and task. And it seems obvious, but from what I see, product designers, product owners, and the user experience designers, they mostly operate with user and task. We all know about personas. I mean, by now, we've heard about it, about personas for a million times. We've had exercises, we've done some other studies, and we kind of learned to understand our user. Then we know about the task. It's basically translates into the product ID, into the goal. What are we going to do? Why are we going to do it? But I often see that people forget about the context, because user does something within certain context. And what is context? Here's the definition for you from Cambridge Dictionary. Cause of event, the situation within which something exists or happens, and that can help explain it. Then another one more closer to what we kind of try to understand. Context is any information that can be used to characterize the situation of entity. And entity is a person, place, object, or considered the relevant interpretation between user and application, whatever. Why are we in this kind of a pickle now? Historically, computers have been mostly stationary. They've been available mostly at work. So the context for all the developers, all the designers, all the developers was easy, at work. People use computers at work. They've done their tasks at work. They need it for working. Even if you design games, I mean, people usually play them in between work or something, or after work. You can probably guess that today it's not the case. Next time you go for a walk, observe the multitude of mobile usage scenarios around you. And you will be surprised what people actually do with their phones, with their mobile devices. Observe yourself for a day, if you can. What you do with your phone, what you do with your tablet, what you do with your computer. Computer is also a mobile device now. I mean, it's laptops. It's with us, right? Observe it and try to kind of grasp this huge difference between your anticipation of where user will use your application or your website and where they actually do that. So we are getting closer to this context-aware design thing that I'm going to talk about. And what is it? This is the context awareness. The term describes the ability of the computer to sense and act upon information about its environment. What this means essentially. How is actually being context-aware compares to not being context-aware in terms of application or website design or development. There's this old joke. Inventor comes to the patent office and says, I want to patent an universal shaver idea. And the official asks him, okay, how does it work? I mean, here's the box, here's the hole. And the inventor says, you put your face inside there, and it shaves you. And the inventor asks, official asks, but isn't everyone's face unique and has its own shape? Yeah, for the first time. And this is what we have been doing. We have been building universal shavers so far. It worked quite well. We try to generalize, analyze personas. We kind of guess the context, where they will be doing, what they will be doing. But today, during the age of destruction, culture of destruction, you cannot guess anymore. If you guess incorrectly, people just move on because they're so distracted, especially on the go, especially in mobile. And you actually need to be better with your understanding of user needs. Basically, for an application to be context-aware, it needs to be able to answer questions like, where am I? What am I doing? What do I want to do now? What do I need to do now? And other questions. And again, previously we guessed about it, but how do we proceed now? Well, we kind of gather information from so-called sensors. And this is where, again, technology comes to rescue. But we don't put technology front and center. We just use it for our needs. And we gather information from those sensors to gather information about the user. And sensors, I will talk about that, but sensors is not in that kind of shape or form. It's not physical sensors, not always. Sometimes it's logical ones. What happens is that we get data from sensors. We create this data. We use this data to imply the context. And then the context triggers different application modes within our websites or applications. And that is the way we kind of try to understand the environment. When I say environment, it's very important to distinguish between actually real environment and perceived environment. What I mean here is that we try to essentially allow a computer or website or a mobile phone, essentially a computer, to get outside of its electronic box and try to understand what we as users see around us. But of course, this gap will never be closed. Computers will never see through our own eyes. We will never be able to feed into the brain. Well, never. Probably not anytime soon. We will never be able to feed directly into user's brain and understand what he feels, what he thinks. And that's why our estimation about environment will always be different from what real users feel and see. If you want a kind of example, think about GPS systems in your car. For example, if you drive to another city, it works amazing. You turn the GPS to say, I want to go to this street, I never heard about it, and it drives you straight there, and you feel that it works amazing. But if you use GPS within your hometown, it goes through these weird streets you never go, you know the better direction, right? Your perceived environment, you understand it much better than the system does. That's a very simple example of the gap between perceived environment and real environment. Basically, yeah, any excuse to use this picture. Context awareness is nothing new. It's been all around us for many, many years now. I mean, in some way or form. It's usually too crude to be recognized. For example, modern exercise machines, they use your pulse, your height, your weight, your age to tailor training experience to you, to prescribe your training experience. When those machines become aware of your personal properties, they can serve you better. There's another very simple example, like automatic lights at the hallways and entrances into the buildings. They can also be seen as very, very simple context-aware systems. The contextual parameters they take into account is current light condition, and if there is any motion in the vicinity. And adaptation is very simple. So again, those are examples of something that we already have now, but of course it's very, very crude. We know Facebook. Everyone knows Facebook. And Facebook has newsfeed, which is example of a context-aware system. It awares of your preferences, of your friends, of what you like, what you dislike, what you decided to hide from the newsfeed, and it tailors it to you. Responsive web design is also a context-aware design with a very simple sensor, screen size. You use data from that sensor and you tailor the experience to the user, and that's how responsive becomes context-aware. But of course, we don't want to talk really simple, right? We want to talk about some more complex scenarios. Excuse me. So what is the context? What is the context? And the context can be kind of twofold. It's a personal and environmental context. Whenever we try to understand the context of a user, we need to think in terms of those two groups. And you can see environmental context is everything that surrounds us, and personal is whatever we are, what we like, what we dislike, and etc. And let's assume we have a user and he has a mobile phone, and we try to understand his context. The first thing that usually comes to mind whenever I think about the context is GPS location, right? So it's very simple. And it's the main sensor that can give us access to different sensors. And I said sensors in a logical way. So you can get direction of the user where he goes, his speed, weather, for example, based on web services, if you can get this information from those. You can also get temperature, again, in the same location. You can guess what's nearby. You can guess this currency. You can guess if a person is traveling or not. This is all information you can get just from simple location. And you've seen those websites that you go and they ask you, do you want to provide them location, right? Usually it's for advertisement. Unfortunately, the most advanced guys in terms of context awareness are the advertising guys. Website builders are not considering that anymore. What else? Time. It's another important sensor. Whenever a user accesses your application or website, you know the time. So you can guess if it's a weekend, if he's at work, if he has some sort of task or something. So this is already some area you can explore to make your designs better. And there's the social. If many sites use social sign-in, like Facebook. So you sign in with Facebook, and Facebook gives you some information. That's why Facebook costs so much money. I mean, you can know about user like relationships or friends or interests, and this is amazing. And if you move to the kind of to the future of wearables. You will have probably information about user's pulse or his daily activity or some other health information if user decides to share this. Of course, we mentioned the device, screen size, etc., but it's kind of simple. You might be saying, this sounds too scary. I mean, you don't want to share this information with anyone. But don't be fooled, this is the future. I mean, this will be the future. As soon as even if you personally don't want to, not willing to share that kind of information right now, it will make sense when the context-aware applications will serve you better, will help you through your day-to-day life. Helping how, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. You don't, but I will answer anyway. So let's imagine a couple of small things that we can put together. So imagine you have a news website and the user is reading it at night. You can switch the color scheme to the dark one. Or you can detect light level maybe from the sensor. You can also do it to switch to the dark theme. If user is on the move, you can probably detect sometimes a shake factor. If device is being shaken, maybe he's running, maybe he's doing sports. You can hide something. You can make buttons larger to be easier to tap them. If you have, for example, a shopping website, right, and you detect that user on Facebook and he's in relationship, you can suggest some presents for his or her friend, right? Sometimes it helps. I mean, it can be seen as obtrusive, but not always that. If you do it correctly, it can be seen as a nice delighter. There's this kind of invented term, delighters. The small things which make your experience a little bit better, like nice animations or nice features, and they're not huge by themselves, but they're nice enough. They're nice enough, and that's still in the territory of delighters. There's, of course, already a great example of an uber advanced context-aware applications called Google Now. Who uses Google Now? Whoa, you see, it makes sense, right? But of course, Google already knows about you so much, and you're not scared by it, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's the future. But there's no reason why you cannot take a cue from Google and not to make your own website as a service better by applying some context-aware techniques or some context-aware things. And it's just not to, I don't want to just say those words, but let's try a few examples, right? Let's take an airline website, any airline. Let's assume this is how their mobile page might look like. You don't need to change much about it. You leave it like that, but you add a few things that are kind of context-aware, and you add some things there that will help users. So here, for example, we already have a very, very small piece of information, which is call us from Latvia. This is the price of the call, and they want to call from another country. You can be aware of where user is, and you can suggest the number to call immediately right there. So users don't have to scroll and find all the numbers. You just try to guess and show it, and allow the option to choose manually. Then we assume that user might want to check in, right? This is what they do. They check in, and after the user checked in, our customer, I might say, checked in, the website might become their personal concierge. We know this information. We can save this cookie, and this technology is like ages old, right? 90 something, and why not use it? I'm always surprised when websites like airline websites, they check in and they forget about me. I mean, why have I used you? So as soon as I checked in, all this additional information can appear there based on my check-in, based on my location, on the current one. It can give me information about when is my next flight, so I can quickly see it with a quick glance. I can see who is traveling with me. I can see if it's raining in the location where I'm traveling at. when I will be arriving there and remind me to take an umbrella. It can remind me that I haven't chosen my seats, so I might want to decide to pay for that. And I haven't registered any luggage, so I might remember that. So it just shows me this information every time I visit this website until my trip. Next, for example, it's my flight is today. So it shows me that my flight is today. It shows me immediately the terminal, the gate. It shows me from my current location, how long will it take me to the airport? And in what time I need to be there, the latest. Again, this is something you can do right now. You don't have to get crazy about it. Just take the location and the checked-in information of the user. And you arrive to the airport. We know the user is already in the airport. So you can tell him, if you know this information, this is already a bit shaky, that average time to pass the security is 15 minutes. And time until onboarding is 1.5 hours. So you can relax. We all know this kind of flying and traveling experience is exhausting. It's kind of a shock to the system, and we're always nervous, and etc. So why not help user by giving him some information about it? When user passes the security, we can tell him that you still have enough time. Here's the map of the airport, and here's some options for the food before the flight. Why not take it, right? Again, nothing to it, but the user will be pleased to see this information. This is something that business owners can do with information that they already have. And you don't need to build whole this responsive thing. I mean, you can do a responsive website and just show those cards on top of the information of regular one. You scroll down, you see the same website you have right now. Another example, if you arrive to the airport to meet someone, it's always like, where do the flights arrive to? Which terminal, which gate, etc. And you can, if user hasn't checked in, but arrives to the airport, you can suggest, are you meeting someone? Here's the arrivals, late arrivals. You immediately suggest something. You don't wait until user tries to find the button on your website or etc. You might ask, really? No? You might ask, I mean, why would I go to the company website? I mean, of course you wouldn't go now. There's no reason. I mean, it's useless. You check in and forget about it. But if the company website will serve you with additional kind of things, additional features, there will be a reason. I guess I'm taking more time than I shouldn't. Anyway, yeah, this is an example. We have other examples. I mentioned news website, changing the color scheme to dark one at night. Or if user is on the move, we can make everything larger, large fonts, large pictures. Here's an example of a shopping mall website which can show you what time they open now. Because it's always frustrating if I want to go there, but I don't know if it's weekend, they close earlier. And how long it will take me to get there. If it's in the evening, we can suggest there's some dining options in the shopping mall. There's medical services. Again, the same thing, call registration, quick button there, and see map or get direction there. It will take you so much time. Movies, if you want to buy a ticket, you can see how long to get there, what stars in that time frame, and suggest movies that you might like based on your previous experience. Because again, the website knows you bought some tickets there, so it might know about you. This is just scratching the surface. This is nothing special, nothing groundbreaking. This is very, very simple ideas, and I'm sure better designers than myself can come up with better ideas. What's important is just move this and take this whole mobile thing further. Not get stuck in your mind with all this responsiveness, and take it into territory where we can actually take advantage of technology provides us these days. Responsive is 5 years old now. You already have so much more today. If you want to read about context-aware design, here are, again, some few links, and you can see I've created some short links from 1 to 11. You can open them all and so on. And here's the quick recap of everything I talked today. And I think that's it.
I guess I didn't have to ask about that after party. No one's asking any questions on Twitter anymore. But maybe we have time for one last question. You could ask to Vasily. Please, yes. Yes, and no headshots with a microphone, I promise. Once again, really. One last question? Okay, then I have one question. Thank you, Vasily. It was absolutely, totally clear. Yes. What was that silver bullet, by the way?
Responsive web design?
Yeah. Were there those silver bullets at all?
Say again?
What was that silver bullet? Anyway.
There shouldn't be a silver bullet. There should not be a universal solution. We, as designers, have an obligation to explore more. The thing is, we should stop thinking in terms of universal solutions. And I think that's the whole problem with responsive. It turns into this universal solution, the silver bullet, but there should not be one.
Mm-hmm. So what we should say to our clients?
Clients are always fun, right?
Yeah. By the way, how many clients do we have here? Clients, please raise your hands. Clients? Yes, listen carefully, please.
Yeah. We should help them understand that they can do so much more and they can take their business further.
You can be better.
I haven't thought about particular
okay, but
generic
that's a good
speech.
Very,
See, there are no universal solutions, so I cannot give you one sentence to tell to your clients.
See?
Take a client, see their problem, and try to analyze it.
You just passed the test on saying and doing the same thing. All right, thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you, Vasily.
Thank you.